I can stop this ransomware in 90 seconds. The janitor's daughter's voice cut through the executive panic. Red warning screens flashed across Meridian Pharmaceuticals' glass-walled conference room. Victoria Harding froze, her CEO authority crumbling as patient data worth billions disappeared behind encryption. Her elite security team, Harvard, MIT, Stanford credentials framed on office walls, stared helplessly at terminals. The countdown timer ticked, 78 minutes until complete system collapse. A custodial cart squeaked to a halt outside. Tasha Williams stepped in, her uniform worn but her gaze razor-sharp. No one noticed her at first, they never did. Victoria slammed her palm on the conference table. How did they get past everything? Tasha cleared her throat. All heads turned. I know exactly how they got in, she said, and I know how to stop them. The senior security director scoffed. Victoria's eyes narrowed. Sometimes, Tasha said, the ones who clean up your trash know exactly where you've hidden your secrets. Tasha Williams woke at 4:30 a.m., as she did every morning. Her fingers moved automatically to the second-hand laptop beside her bed, a refurbished model she'd upgraded herself with salvaged parts. The cramped one-bedroom apartment was quiet except for her father's soft snoring from the pull-out couch in the living room. By 5:15, she'd already helped Mrs. Guzman from apartment 3B recover her granddaughter's college application essay from a corrupted hard drive. No charge, Tasha had insisted via text, though the homemade tamales that would appear at their door later would be payment enough. Her father, James Williams, shuffled into the kitchen as she was brewing coffee. Early bird catches the worm, he said, his voice gravelly with sleep but warm with pride. More like the early bird catches the security vulnerabilities, Tasha replied, showing him a forum post she'd written analyzing a new ransomware strain targeting healthcare systems. James poured himself coffee in a chipped mug that read, World's Best Dad, a dollar store gift from 15 years ago. You should be working at one of those big tech companies, not cleaning their offices. Tasha closed her laptop. We've been over this, Dad. Without a degree. Your brain is worth 10 of their degrees. He straightened his own janitorial uniform, identical to the one Tasha would put on shortly. I still say those online courses should count for something. They will. Someday. Tasha checked her watch, a smartwatch with a cracked screen she'd reprogrammed to run diagnostics. The certification exam is next month. I've almost saved enough. Instead of his usual encouraging nod, James reached into his pocket and pulled out an envelope. I've been saving too. Inside was $2,200 in cash. Dad, your retirement can wait. Your future can't. He closed her fingers around the envelope. Dad, one day they'll see me for my mind, not for the mop in my hand. Tasha's eyes burned. She tucked the envelope carefully into her backpack beside her technical manuals and notebook. The ride to Meridian Pharmaceuticals took 40 minutes by bus. The gleaming 50-story building rose from the business district like a monument to success, all glass and steel and importance. Tasha and James entered through the service entrance at 6:30 a.m., signed in with security guards who barely glanced up, and took the service elevator to the janitorial supply room. 20 floors above them, Victoria Harding was already at her desk. Victoria had arrived at 6:15 a.m. in her chauffeur-driven Tesla. The security team had buzzed her in immediately, standing straighter as she passed. The morning sunlight caught the red highlights in her expertly colored hair and the diamond studs in her ears as she strode across the marble lobby, heels clicking authoritatively. At 45, Victoria had been CEO of Meridian Pharmaceuticals for 3 years and had increased shareholder value by 27%. The Harvard MBA on her wall was just one of her credentials. She had orchestrated the company's acquisition of 2 smaller firms and streamlined operations by eliminating what she called redundancies and others called people. Her office overlooked the city. Floor-to-ceiling windows, a desk made of sustainable rainforest wood that cost more than most cars, and a small army of assistants who anticipated her needs. Victoria had just finished her first call of the day. Tokyo Research Partners, very promising, when her chief information officer, Derek Palmer, appeared at her door. "Morning brief?" he asked, tablet in hand. Victoria gestured to the chair across from her desk. Derek sat, but not before subtly adjusting his tie Hermes, last season but still acceptable. "The Secure Path implementation is behind schedule," he began. Victoria's perfectly manicured nails tapped on her desk. "We're presenting the Reno Cure data to investors in 3 weeks. The security protocol upgrade needs to be complete before then." "The team is working on it, but what? We've invested millions in this security team. All those impressive degrees and certifications should amount to something, shouldn't they?" Derek shifted uncomfortably. "There's an integration issue with our legacy systems, and the team is concerned about some unusual network activity they've detected." Victoria waved a dismissive hand. "Technical details bore me, Derek. Fix it." "We may need additional resources. What we need are results." Victoria turned to her screen, a clear dismissal. "The Reno Cure data is this company's future. Nothing, and I mean nothing, can compromise its security." As Derek left, Victoria's gaze fell on a notification. "Unusual login attempt detected. Low priority." She deleted it without reading further. Meanwhile, Tasha was emptying trash bins on the executive floor. Most offices were still empty this early, which was when she preferred to work here. Less chance of being in the way. Less chance of being noticed at all. She moved efficiently, almost invisibly, through the space. Years of practice had taught her how to be thorough without being seen. As she approached Victoria's office, she noticed the CEO engrossed in a video call, voice carrying through the partially open door. "I don't care what their qualifications are," Victoria was saying to someone on her screen. "If they didn't attend a top 10 program, they're not Meridian material. Next resume." Tasha paused, then quietly entered to empty the recycling bin. Victoria continued her call, never acknowledging Tasha's presence. On the CEO's second monitor, Tasha noticed a flashing security alert minimized to the taskbar, the same one she'd spotted on 3 other executive computers this week. She finished her task and slipped out, unnoticed as always. By lunchtime, Tasha was in the server room, officially cleaning but also observing. Her father covered for her when she took extra time here. The night shift IT staff knew her. She'd helped them troubleshoot printer issues more than once, and they looked the other way when she lingered. In her pocket was a small notebook filled with network diagrams and security observations. During breaks, she documented the vulnerabilities she'd noticed. Outdated server protocols, unsecured IoT devices in conference rooms, the CEO's habit of leaving her computer unlocked. 3 floors down, the security team was gathered in their glass-walled office, credentials proudly displayed on the wall behind them. Harvard, MIT, Stanford, Princeton. "The anonymous tip about the security vulnerability came in again," said Aidan Moore, lead security analyst. "3rd time this month." "Same as before?" asked Sophia Chen, his deputy. "Yes, warning about potential backdoor access through the IoT conference system, flagged as low priority since it came through the general submission form." Aidan shrugged. "Probably nothing. Some IT intern trying to sound important." "Besides," Sophia added, "we're focused on the Secure Path implementation. Victoria's orders." Neither noticed the maintenance worker emptying trash bins just outside their door. That evening, Tasha sat in a 24-hour diner, nursing a cup of coffee while studying for her certification exam. Her father was working a second shift at an office building downtown. Her phone buzzed with a news alert. "Healthcare industry on high alert, ransomware attacks targeting patient data." Tasha clicked through to the article. The attack pattern described matched exactly what she'd been documenting in her notebook. She hesitated, then opened her anonymous email account and composed a new message to Meridian's security team. "Urgent. Your systems show signs of pre-attack preparation. The same pattern hit Westlake Medical last week. Check conference room IoT devices for backdoor access." She sent it, knowing it would likely be ignored like her previous warnings. Then she returned to her studies, unaware that across town, specialized malware was already establishing itself deeper in Meridian's network, waiting for the command to activate. The next morning, Victoria Harding stood before her executive team, reviewing final preparations for the investor presentation. "RenoCure will revolutionize treatment for autoimmune disorders," she said, her voice confident. "The data security is our top priority. Derek assures me that everything is proceeding as planned." Derek nodded, though his eyes betrayed uncertainty. "Questions?" Victoria asked. The chief marketing officer raised her hand. "There are rumors of targeted attacks on pharmaceutical companies. Should we be concerned?" Victoria's smile remained fixed. "Our security team is world-class. Meridian systems are impenetrable." As if on cue, a notification appeared on her phone. "Multiple unusual login attempts. Low priority." Victoria dismissed it without a second glance. In the hallway outside, Tasha wheeled her cart past the conference room, catching fragments of the conversation. She made a note in her book about another vulnerability she'd spotted on the executive floor printer network, then continued her rounds, invisible as always. The system's weaknesses were accumulating in her notebook, page after page of potential disaster. But who would listen to the janitor's daughter? The first sign came at 9:17 a.m. on a Tuesday. A subtle slowdown in the network that most employees attributed to routine maintenance. IT sent a company-wide email about system optimization that nobody read beyond the subject line. Tasha noticed it immediately. While cleaning the executive bathroom, her security monitoring app disguised as a weather widget on her phone showed unusual data patterns in Meridian's network traffic. She frowned, checking the signature against her mental database of attack vectors. By 10:30 a.m., the marketing department reported that their presentation files were taking forever to load. Help desk tickets multiplied. In the IT department, technicians blamed the new cloud backup system and assured callers that everything was under control. Tasha finished the executive floor early and made her way to the 37th floor home to the Security Operations Center. Outside the glass walls, she carefully emptied trash bins while watching the security analysts inside. Their body language had shifted from morning casualness to alert concern. Aiden Moore paced behind his team, phone pressed to his ear. On her cart's lower shelf, hidden beneath cleaning supplies, Tasha's notebook contained a diagram she'd drawn 3 weeks ago predicting exactly this pattern of network degradation. Victoria Harding remained oblivious. Her morning had been consumed with preparation for tomorrow's critical investor meeting, where the RenoCure data would be unveiled. Pharmaceutical industry leaders and investment bankers would be scrutinizing not just the breakthrough treatment data, but Meridian's position as an industry leader. She was reviewing her presentation when her executive assistant burst in without knocking something that had never happened before. "Ms. Harding, it is requesting your immediate attention. They're reporting some kind of system issue." Victoria didn't look up. "Tell Derek to handle it. That's why he has that ridiculously expensive security team. Derek asked specifically for you. He's in the SOC and says it's urgent." Victoria's head snapped up, irritation flashing across her face. "Fine, tell him I'll be there in 10 minutes. She arrived at the Security Operations Center 15 minutes later, making a point of her delayed arrival. The room fell silent as she entered. On the large monitoring screens, red alerts pulsed ominously. "This had better be important," she said. Derek stepped forward, his usual polished demeanor cracking. "We've detected unusual activity in our systems. The team believes it may be—" "A coordinated penetration attempt," Aiden interrupted, eyes fixed on his screen. "Ma'am, someone is trying to access the secured servers where the RenoCure data is stored." Victoria's irritation gave way to sharp focus. "Are they succeeding?" A moment of uncomfortable silence. "We're not sure," Sophia admitted. "The attack is sophisticated, unlike anything we've seen before." Outside the glass wall, Tasha paused while wiping down a water fountain. She watched the security team's barely contained panic with knowing eyes. At 11:42 a.m., the first workstation went dark. A customer service representative on the 12th floor was entering patient insurance information when her screen suddenly went black. When it returned 30 seconds later, a red skull icon pulsed in the center with text beneath it. Your data is being encrypted. Payment instructions will follow. The help desk received 27 identical reports in the next 5 minutes. By noon, the executive floor was in controlled chaos. Victoria had convened an emergency response team in the main conference room. The security team had set up workstations, their faces illuminated by the glow of laptops as they worked frantically to contain the breach. "How bad is it?" Victoria demanded. Derek wiped sweat from his forehead. "It's spreading through our network. Marketing is completely locked out. Customer service is down. R&D reports their systems are starting to show symptoms." "The Reno Cure data?" Aiden looked up from his laptop. "Still secure for now, but the attackers are moving through our defenses faster than we can respond." The room fell silent as the largest screen on the wall suddenly changed. A countdown timer appeared, 78:42:17. Below it, text in blood-red font. Meridian Pharmaceuticals. All patient data and research files are being encrypted. Transfer $5.7 million in Bitcoin within 78 hours, or lose everything permanently. Attempts to restore from backups will fail. We control those too. Victoria's complexion matched her white blouse. How did they get past everything? How? Outside in the hallway, Tasha was emptying a trash bin when her phone buzzed. The alert from her monitoring app confirmed what she already suspected. The attackers had used the exact vulnerability she'd anonymously reported 3 times. She looked through the glass wall at the panicking executives and security team. For months, she'd been invisible to them. Now, their survival depended on someone seeing what she'd seen all along. The question was, would they finally see her? By 2 p.m., Meridian Pharmaceuticals was in full crisis mode. The executive conference room had transformed into a war room, laptops open, phones ringing, tension thickening the air with each passing minute. The countdown timer loomed on the main screen, 76:23:41. Victoria paced the length of the conference table, heels striking the floor with military precision. "I want answers, not excuses. How did this happen on your watch?" The security team exchanged nervous glances. Aiden Moore cleared his throat. "The attack vector appears to be through our conference room systems. The IoT devices were supposed to be secured," Victoria cut in. "Wasn't that part of the Secure Path implementation you assured me was on track?" Derek stepped forward, placing himself between Victoria and his team. "It was scheduled for next week's update. We prioritized the patient data encryption first, as instructed." "As instructed?" Victoria's voice dropped dangerously low. "Are you suggesting this is my fault?" The room fell silent. On the screens behind them, more systems turned red as the infection spread. "The board is convening an emergency session in 30 minutes, Victoria continued. "They'll want to know who's responsible for this catastrophe. I suggest you have better answers by then." Sophia's phone chimed. She glanced at it, then looked up with widening eyes. "The backup systems have been compromised. All of them." "That's impossible," Aiden said. "The off-site backups are air-gapped." "Not anymore," Sophia replied, turning her screen to show him. Victoria slammed her palm on the conference table. "You're telling me that our world-class security team with all their prestigious degrees and certifications couldn't prevent a simple hack?" "This isn't simple," Derek protested. "This is a sophisticated, targeted—" "I don't want to hear it." Victoria's voice sliced through the room. "Your entire security team couldn't prevent this? What exactly am I paying you for?" No one answered. Outside the glass walls, employees gathered in clusters, whispering anxiously as rumors spread throughout the building. Victoria checked her watch. "I've called in external experts from CyberShield. They'll be here within 3 hours." 3 hours? Aiden looked up from his laptop. "We'll have lost access to critical systems by then." "Then I suggest you work faster." Victoria gathered her tablet and phone. I have to brief the board. Derek, you're with me. The rest of you fix this, or start updating your resumes. As they left, Sophia dropped her head into her hands. We're screwed. The IoT vulnerability, it's exactly what those anonymous tips warned about. Those tips didn't come through proper channels, Aiden muttered defensively. And they were too vague to act on. Neither noticed Tasha passing by with her cleaning cart, her expression carefully neutral as she absorbed every word. On the 12th floor, James Williams was dealing with the aftermath of panicked employees. Coffee spills, overflowing trash bins, a bathroom flooding from a faucet left running by someone rushing to an emergency meeting. He worked methodically, professionally, even as whispers of layoffs and data breaches swirled around him. His phone vibrated in his pocket, a text from Tasha. It's happening. The attack I warned them about. James stepped into a quiet corner to call her. Are you okay? I'm fine, Tasha replied. But they're not. They have no idea what they're dealing with. This isn't your problem, Tasha. A pause. But I might be their solution. James closed his eyes. He knew that tone. The same determined voice she'd used when announcing she'd taught herself Python at 14, when she'd rebuilt their neighbor's virus-infected computer at 16, when she'd decided to pursue cybersecurity despite having no formal education. You've been warning them for weeks, he said carefully. They didn't listen. That doesn't mean they don't deserve help. Tasha's voice was steady. Dad, I've studied this exact attack method. I know how to stop it. And if you fail, Victoria Harding isn't known for her forgiveness. And if I don't try? Hundreds of jobs at risk. Patient data exposed. I can't just watch it happen. James sighed. You're your mother's daughter. She never could walk past someone in trouble either. I'll be careful, Tasha promised. I know you will. Pride warmed his voice. You know more than those fancy degree holders anyway. When they hung up, James looked around at the employees rushing past him, none making eye contact with the maintenance worker. His daughter had been invisible to these people for too long. Perhaps it was finally time for them to see her. In the boardroom, Victoria was facing her own nightmare. Board members connected remotely, their faces grave on the large screen. How could this happen? Demanded the board chair, Eleanor Blackwell. We were assured our security was state-of-the-art. We're dealing with a sophisticated attack, Victoria replied, struggling to maintain her composure. Our team is working to contain it, and I've called in external experts. The Reno Cure data? Asked another board member. Currently secure, but I can't guarantee how long that will last. Victoria's admission cost her physically. She seemed to shrink slightly in her chair. This is unacceptable, Eleanor stated flatly. The investor presentation is tomorrow. Years of research and billions in potential revenue are at risk. I understand the stakes, Victoria said through gritted teeth. Patient advocacy groups are already calling, another board member reported. They've heard rumors about data breaches. Victoria's phone lit up with a text from her assistant. CNN requesting comment on rumored ransomware attack. The walls were closing in. Victoria had built her career on competence and control. Now both were slipping through her fingers like sand. Back in the war room, Aiden slammed his laptop shut in frustration. We're locked out of another server cluster. At this rate, they'll have everything in hours, not days. What about the Cyber Shield experts? Asked a junior analyst. Delayed by weather in Chicago, Sophia replied grimly. Earliest arrival is now 7 p.m. The countdown on the screen continued its merciless descent, 74, 56, 32. Outside the door, Tasha stood with her cart, watching the chaos unfold. She took a deep breath, straightened her uniform, and reached for the door handle. It was time to be seen. Tasha entered the crisis room quietly, wheeling her cart to the corner. For several minutes, no one noticed her, a testament to how thoroughly she'd mastered the art of invisibility. She observed the security team's frantic activity, mentally cataloging their approaches and the errors they were making. Aiden ran a hand through his disheveled hair. The malware is adapting to our countermeasures. It's like it can predict what we're going to do. Because it can, Tasha said, her voice carrying across the room despite its quiet delivery. Heads turned. Confusion crossed their faces, the same look Tasha had seen countless times when people realized the maintenance staff had opinions. "Excuse me?" Sophia said, eyebrows raised. "This is a restricted area during an emergency." Tasha stepped away from her cart. "You're facing a deep lock ransomware variant. Version 4.2, judging by the execution pattern. It uses machine learning to anticipate standard security responses." The room fell silent. Aiden recovered first. "How would you possibly know that?" "The same way I knew about the IoT vulnerability 3 weeks ago when I sent those anonymous tips." Tasha maintained steady eye contact. "The tips you marked as low priority." Recognition dawned on Sophia's face. "That was you?" Before Tasha could answer, Victoria and Derek returned. Victoria stopped abruptly when she saw Tasha. "Why is maintenance in here? This is a level 1 security situation." Victoria's voice dripped with irritation. "Please remove your cleaning supplies and come back later." Tasha didn't move. "Ms. Harding, I can help stop the attack." A disbelieving laugh escaped Victoria. "I appreciate your enthusiasm, but we have highly trained professionals handling this." "The same professionals who ignored the vulnerability warnings I've been sending for weeks?" Tasha kept her voice neutral, factual. "The same ones who are currently trying to block TCP port 8443 when the malware is actually communicating through a DNS tunnel?" Aiden's hands froze over his keyboard. "How did you—" Victoria cut him off with a gesture. "Who exactly are you?" "Tasha Williams. I work maintenance with my father, James Williams. I've been here 2 years." "And you believe you understand cybersecurity better than my team?" "I don't believe it. I know it." Tasha pulled her notebook from her pocket. "I've documented 17 critical vulnerabilities in your systems over the past 3 months. The IoT conference system backdoor was just the most urgent." Victoria crossed her arms. "Derek, please escort Ms. Williams out so our team can continue working." "Wait," Sophia interjected, studying Tasha with new interest. "How did you know about the DNS tunnel? We just discovered that ourselves." "Because I've been studying this exact attack pattern for months," Tasha replied. "It's been used against 3 other pharmaceutical companies. I recognize the signature." Derek hesitated, looking between Victoria and Tasha. "Maybe we should hear her out." Victoria's lips thinned to a tight line. 2 minutes, then back to your regular duties." Tasha nodded once, then moved to the main console. The security team parted reluctantly, watching as she scanned the monitoring displays. She pointed to a pattern of data on one of the screens. "You're focusing on the wrong indicators. This isn't just data encryption, it's a 2-stage attack. The ransomware is a distraction from the real target, data exfiltration. They're stealing the Reno cure research while you're busy trying to stop the encryption." Aiden frowned. "That's speculation." "Check your outbound traffic on non-standard ports," Tasha suggested. "Particularly UDP53 to IP addresses that resolve to Eastern European domains registered in the last 30 days. Sophia's fingers flew across her keyboard. Her eyes widened. "She's right. There's massive data transfer happening right under our monitoring thresholds." Victoria stepped closer. "How could you possibly know this?" "Because I pay attention," Tasha said simply. "And because I've spent every free hour for the past 3 years studying cybersecurity. I'm 2 weeks away from my CSP certification." "A certification doesn't equate to practical experience," Victoria countered, but with less conviction. "No," Tasha agreed. but successfully stopping this exact attack vector on my neighbor's small business network last month does. She turned to the security team. The attack has a kill switch. All deep lock variants do, but finding it requires understanding how the initial compromise occurred. The countdown timer on the wall ticked down. 74, 12, 57. Derek cleared his throat. Victoria, at this point, what do we have to lose? Victoria studied Tasha for a long moment, taking in her worn uniform, her calm demeanor, the intelligence behind her steady gaze. Finally, she nodded curtly. Fine. Show us what you can do. Tasha didn't waste time acknowledging the victory. I need administrative access to your security monitoring systems. Aiden balked. That's against protocol. Only cleared security personnel. Your protocols are why you're in this situation, Tasha cut in. The attackers exploited your procedural rigidity. Victoria made the decision. Give her access. Temporary and logged. The next 20 minutes unfolded in a blur of activity. Tasha's fingers moved across the keyboard with practiced precision, navigating through system architectures she'd only glimpsed during her cleaning rounds but had memorized nonetheless. The security team watched in growing amazement as she identified attack pathways they hadn't detected. The initial compromise came through this conference room, Tasha explained, bringing up a schematic on the main screen. The smart displays have an unpatched firmware vulnerability. The attackers used it to establish a beachhead, then moved laterally through your network by exploiting the trust relationship between your IoT management system and the main domain controllers. Sophia leaned forward. But those systems aren't supposed to have that level of trust. They don't on paper, Tasha agreed. But during the last security update, someone misconfigured the permission boundaries. She pulled up a log entry. Here, March 12th. The change was marked as temporary but never reversed. Aiden swallowed hard. That had been his oversight. Tasha continued working, narrating her process in clear, accessible language that translated complex technical concepts into terms everyone could understand. The security team began to follow her lead, implementing her suggestions and reporting back their findings. Victoria watched in silence, her expression unreadable as she observed this maintenance worker command the room with quiet authority. I've isolated the exfiltration pathway, Tasha announced after an hour of intense work. We can cut it off, but we need to be careful. If we move too obviously, the attackers will accelerate the encryption process. Derek looked to Victoria. Your call. Victoria had been texting with the board throughout the process. She'd gone from defending her security team to cautiously reporting a potential breakthrough from an unexpected resource. Now she stood at a crossroads: trust the janitor's daughter, or wait for the external experts who might arrive too late. Do it, she decided. Tasha nodded. I need to implement a countermeasure that will require taking several critical systems offline temporarily. It will look like the attack is succeeding, but actually trap the malware in a contained environment. That's risky, Aiden protested. Less risky than losing everything, Tasha countered, which is exactly what will happen if we don't act now. Victoria made a swift calculation. How long will systems be down? 7 minutes if everything goes as planned. And if it doesn't? Tasha met her gaze directly. Then you're no worse off than you are right now. A tense silence filled the room. The countdown showed 73:04:22. Proceed, Victoria ordered. Tasha turned back to the terminal. I need everyone to follow my instructions exactly. Timing is critical. What followed was a masterclass in cybersecurity incident response. Tasha orchestrated a complex sequence of system shutdowns, traffic redirections, and containment protocols. The security team, initially skeptical, now moved with coordinated precision under her guidance. Ready for Phase 2, Tasha announced. This is where we inject the countermeasure code. On my mark, Sophia will execute the script I've prepared while Aiden monitors for evasion attempts from the malware. Victoria stepped closer, unable to maintain her distance from the unfolding technical ballet. What exactly will this do? It creates a false environment that the malware will believe is your actual network. While it wastes resources attacking the decoy, we'll extract the encryption keys it's already using. Tasha's eyes never left the screen. Basically, we're turning their own tactics against them. That's brilliant, Derek admitted. Tasha allowed herself the smallest smile. Executing in 3, 2, 1. Now. Screens throughout the room flickered as commands executed. Warning messages flashed, then stabilized into a steady stream of data. Tasha watched intently, making micro-adjustments to the code as the attack pattern evolved. They've noticed something's wrong, she reported, countering their evasion attempt. The room held its collective breath as Tasha engaged in a real-time chess match with unseen attackers. Her fingers flew across the keyboard, anticipating and blocking each countermove before it fully developed. "How are you doing this?" Sophia whispered, watching Tasha work with a mixture of awe and professional envy. "Pattern recognition," Tasha replied without breaking her rhythm. "These attack groups have signatures, just like people have habits. Once you learn to read them, you can predict their next moves." For 20 tense minutes, the battle continued in silence, broken only by the click of keys and Tasha's occasional quiet instructions. The security team followed her lead without question now, their earlier skepticism replaced by growing respect. Finally, Tasha sat back. "I've got it. The decryption key." Aiden stared at his monitoring screen. "The data exfiltration has stopped, completely." "And the encryption process?" Victoria asked, hope creeping into her voice for the first time. "Paused," Tasha confirmed. "We've essentially taken control of their malware. Now we can begin decrypting affected systems while maintaining the illusion that the attack is proceeding." The room erupted in disbelieving laughter and exclamations. Security team members clapped each other on the back. Derek closed his eyes in relief. Victoria remained focused on Tasha. "How long to restore everything?" 4 to 6 hours for critical systems. By morning for everything else." Tasha began typing again. "I'm implementing safeguards to prevent them from regaining control." "The Reno cure data?" Victoria pressed. Tasha brought up a status window. "Secure. The exfiltration was stopped before they accessed the core research files." Victoria exhaled slowly. "The investor presentation can proceed as scheduled." Tasha nodded, continuing to work. She had shifted from crisis response to systematic recovery, organizing the security team into task groups and establishing priorities for system restoration. The room had fallen into a rhythm of focused activity when Eleanor Blackwell, board chair, entered unexpectedly. She surveyed the scene, eyes settling on Victoria. "I came to assess the situation personally," she explained. "Your last update mentioned a breakthrough." Victoria gestured toward Tasha, who remained absorbed in her work. "Ms. Williams identified the attack vector and implemented the countermeasure that stopped it." Eleanor frowned slightly. "Ms. Williams? From our security team?" "No," Victoria said, a strange note in her voice. "From our maintenance staff." The room fell silent. Tasha looked up, suddenly aware of being the center of attention. The board chair stared at her, taking in the janitorial uniform with visible confusion. "You're telling me," Eleanor said slowly, "that a member of the cleaning crew stopped a sophisticated cyber attack that our entire security department couldn't handle?" Tasha met her gaze steadily. "I've been studying this exact attack pattern for months. You just never asked." For 5 seconds, no one spoke. Eleanor Blackwell's gaze shifted from Tasha to Victoria, then to the security team, seeking confirmation that this wasn't some elaborate joke. "It's true," Sophia said, breaking the silence. "She identified vulnerabilities we missed, recognized the attack pattern, and developed a counter-strategy in minutes." Aiden nodded reluctantly. "We've been implementing her recovery protocol for the past hour. Systems are coming back online exactly as she predicted." Eleanor turned to Victoria. And you authorized this unorthodox approach? Victoria straightened her spine. I authorized using the best resource available to us in a crisis situation. Ms. Williams has proven to be that resource. Tasha continued working, her focus unwavering despite the conversations swirling around her. On her screen, a complex visualization showed the decryption process spreading through Meridian's systems like antibodies fighting an infection. We have a problem, she announced suddenly. The room tensed. The attackers have detected our countermeasures. They're implementing a scorched earth protocol. Meaning? Victoria moved to her side. They're trying to destroy what they can't steal, targeting the Reno Cure servers specifically. Tasha's fingers accelerated. I need full system authority. Now. Derek hesitated. That would give her access to everything. Every piece of proprietary research, every— Do it, Victoria ordered, her decision immediate and final. Eleanor stepped forward. Victoria, the board hasn't authorized— The board isn't here making decisions in real time, Victoria countered. I am. And I'm giving Ms. Williams whatever she needs to save this company. Tasha didn't wait for further discussion. As soon as the elevated credentials appeared on her screen, she initiated a sequence of commands that transformed the monitoring displays into a battlefield map of Meridian's digital infrastructure. They've deployed a secondary payload targeting your backup validation protocols, she explained. Clever! They're trying to corrupt the backups while we're distracted with the primary attack. The security team watched in awe as Tasha engaged in what could only be described as digital hand-to-hand combat with the attackers. For every path they tried to exploit, she anticipated and blocked them. For every system they targeted, she was already there, protecting critical assets with defensive code she wrote on the fly. How is she doing this? Eleanor whispered to Victoria. I don't know, Victoria admitted, but she is. The tension peaked as warning alerts flashed across the main screen. The Reno Cure Data Repository, representing years of research and billions in potential revenue, showed critical stress as the attackers concentrated their efforts there. They're going to breach the final firewall, Aiden warned, even with the decryption keys, if they corrupt the master database. They won't, Tasha said with quiet certainty. She turned to Sophia. I need you to execute this script on my mark. It will temporarily sever all external connections and create a secure bubble around the core research servers. Sophia positioned herself at a secondary terminal. Ready. Tasha initiated a complex sequence of commands, then nodded. Now. The room held its collective breath as the script executed. Status indicators flashed red, then yellow, then green as Meridian's most valuable intellectual property was isolated from the attack. Implementing final countermeasure, Tasha announced. This will trace the attack back to its source and deploy a passive marker that law enforcement can use to identify the perpetrators. Victoria raised an eyebrow. You can do that? It's a technique I developed after studying similar attacks, Tasha replied, not looking up. The FBI Cyber Division has a standing request for this kind of intelligence. The room fell silent except for the sound of Tasha's typing. On the screens, attack vectors flared and died as the malware lost its foothold in Meridian's systems. The countdown timer froze at 72:41:19, then disappeared altogether. Tasha sat back, exhaling slowly. It's done. Their access is cut off and the recovery process is stable. Core systems will be operational within the hour. The Reno Cure data is secure and uncorrupted. For a moment, no one moved or spoke. The transition from crisis to resolution had happened so swiftly that it took time to process. Then, from the back of the room, someone began to applaud. Others joined in, the sound swelling until it filled the space. Tasha looked up, momentarily confused by the response. She wasn't used to being seen, let alone celebrated. Victoria stepped forward, silencing the room with a raised hand. Her gaze settled on Tasha with a new awareness, seeing her, perhaps for the first time. "Ms. Williams," she said, her voice carrying a respect that hadn't been there hours before. "You just saved this company from catastrophic data loss and potentially billions in damages. The question is why? You've been sending anonymous warnings for months that we ignored. You could have let us face the consequences of our oversight." Tasha met her gaze steadily. "That's not who I am. Knowledge comes with responsibility, regardless of who recognizes it." Victoria nodded slowly, processing this. Eleanor Blackwell moved to stand beside her. "How did you acquire these skills?" the board chair asked. "Self-taught mostly," Tasha replied. "Online courses, technical manuals, practice exercises. My father sacrificed his retirement savings for my certification exams." "Yet you work in maintenance," Victoria observed. "Without formal credentials or connections, there aren't many doors open to someone like me." Tasha's voice held no bitterness, just a simple statement of fact. "I applied for an entry-level security position here last year. My application was filtered out by HR's degree requirements." Victoria and Eleanor exchanged glances. "That," Victoria said quietly, "was clearly our loss." The dynamic in the room had shifted irrevocably. The security team regarded Tasha with a mixture of respect and chagrin. Derek studied her with thoughtful reassessment. And Victoria, whose dismissiveness had defined her interaction with staff deemed non-essential, now addressed Tasha as an equal. "What happens now?" Eleanor asked, looking between Victoria and Tasha. Victoria straightened her shoulders, decision made. "Now we acknowledge expertise wherever we find it." She turned to face the room. Ms. Williams didn't just implement a technical solution today. She exposed a critical flaw in our company culture, one that values credentials over competence and overlooks talent because it doesn't come in expected packages. She turned to Tasha. "Talent doesn't care what floor you work on." The simple truth of the statement resonated through the room. Tasha remained composed, but her eyes revealed the impact of finally being recognized for her mind rather than her uniform. Victoria extended her hand. "Meridian Pharmaceuticals owes you a debt that goes beyond today's crisis. I'd like to discuss how we might properly recognize your contribution and expertise." Tasha accepted the handshake. The maintenance worker and the CEO momentarily equals in the aftermath of averted disaster. "I'd welcome that conversation." The power dynamic hadn't just shifted. It had been fundamentally rewritten. In the space of hours, the invisible had become indispensable. The overlooked had become the savior. And Victoria Harding, who had built a career on identifying value, was facing the humbling recognition of how much she had failed to see. The next hour unfolded in a blur of activity that would have been unimaginable earlier that day. The crisis room transformed from a center of panic to a hub of methodical recovery, with Tasha calmly directing operations from what had become the central workstation. "Finance systems are back online," reported a junior analyst. "Customer database restored at 97% integrity and climbing." Tasha nodded, making notes in what was no longer a hidden notebook, but an official incident response log. "Prioritize the patient portal next. People need access to their medication information." The security team, initially resistant, now moved in sync with her instructions, their expertise finally channeled effectively under her guidance. Aiden, whose dismissal of her anonymous warnings had contributed to the crisis, now deferred to her judgment without hesitation. Victoria had stepped away to update the full board, but her tone had transformed from defensive explanation to confident assurance. Through the glass walls, Tasha could see her gesturing toward the recovery operation, occasionally pointing in Tasha's direction as board members on the video call leaned forward with interest. "Ms. Williams." Tasha turned to find Derek beside her, his expression thoughtful. "The execution of your recovery protocol is remarkable," he said. "We would have lost everything without your intervention." You had the skills in your team, Tasha replied, just not the perspective. Sometimes it takes an outsider to see the patterns. Derek nodded slowly. An outsider who shouldn't have been an outsider in the first place. He glanced toward Victoria, who was concluding her board meeting. I think that reality is becoming very clear to everyone involved. Across the room, James Williams appeared at the door, concern etched on his face. Security personnel, who would have blocked his entry hours earlier, now stepped aside respectfully. His eyes found his daughter at the center of the activity, and his worry gave way to quiet pride. Tasha spotted him and smiled, a silent affirmation that everything had changed. Victoria returned, ending her call as she approached. Her gaze moved between Tasha and her father, understanding dawning in her eyes. Mr. Williams, she said, extending her hand, your daughter has done something extraordinary today. James shook her hand firmly. She's been extraordinary her whole life. I'm just glad someone finally noticed. Victoria had the grace to accept the gentle rebuke. She turned to Tasha with newfound respect. Ms. Williams, the board would like to speak with you, not as janitorial staff, but as the person who just saved this company. 3 weeks later, Tasha Williams stepped out of the elevator onto the 48th floor executive territory she had once accessed only with a cleaning cart. Today, she carried a leather portfolio embossed with Meridian Pharmaceuticals logo and a key card that granted her access to every level of the building. The nameplate beside her new office read, Natasha Williams, Chief Information Security Officer. Inside, floor-to-ceiling windows offered the same sweeping city view that Victoria Harding enjoyed. The space formerly occupied by an underperforming VP who had decided to pursue other opportunities following the ransomware incident had been quickly renovated to accommodate Meridian's newest executive. Tasha set her coffee on the desk and opened her laptop. Her inbox already contained 37 messages, most concerning the comprehensive security overhaul she'd been hired to implement. The board had unanimously approved her proposal, along with a budget that made the security team's previous resources look like pocket change. A knock at her open door made her look up. Victoria stood there, impeccably dressed as always, but with a subtle difference in her demeanor when addressing Tasha, a colleague, rather than a subordinate. Do you have a moment? Victoria asked. Of course. Tasha gestured to the visitor chairs. Victoria took a seat, studying Tasha with thoughtful eyes. The FBI Cyber Division called this morning. They've identified the attack group using the markers you provided. Apparently, your tracing technique has helped them connect these attackers to 3 other major ransomware campaigns. They were careless, Tasha said. Reusing infrastructure across multiple attacks creates patterns. Patterns you recognized when no one else did, Victoria noted, including our previous security leadership. Tasha acknowledged this with a small nod. Her diplomatic skills had developed rapidly over the past weeks of executive meetings and board presentations. The Reno Cure investor presentation was a success, Victoria continued. The data security questions were answered with a simple, "We have Ms. Williams now." That proved surprisingly effective. Tasha smiled. Glad I could help. You did more than help. Victoria leaned forward. You've transformed how we think about talent acquisition. HR is overhauling our hiring practices. Degree requirements are being replaced with skill assessments. The board approved a scholarship program for promising tech students from underserved communities. I heard, Tasha said. My father is helping identify candidates through his community center. Victoria nodded. James has been remarkably generous, considering how long we overlooked both of you. He believes in second chances. As do you, apparently. Victoria's gaze was direct. You could have left after saving us. Taken any number of offers that came your way. Why stay? Tasha considered the question. Because change happens from within. And because what Meridian does matters, the medicines, the research, protecting that work means something. Victoria accepted this with a thoughtful nod. She rose to leave, then paused. The executive leadership meeting is at 11. Your security infrastructure presentation is the main agenda item. I'll be there, Tasha assured her. After Victoria left, Tasha turned to the window, taking in the view she'd once glimpsed only while emptying trash bins and dusting shelves. Her phone chimed with a text from her father. Lunch today? Proud of you, kiddo. She smiled, typing back a quick confirmation. As she set down her phone, Sophia appeared in the doorway. The security team is ready for this morning's briefing when you are, she said. Thanks, I'll be right there. Tasha gathered her notes. How's the mentorship program coming along? 5 candidates from the maintenance and facilities teams have signed up, Sophia reported. Turns out we've been surrounded by untapped talent all along. Tasha nodded, unsurprised. What matters isn't where you start, but what you see while you're there. Later that afternoon, Tasha visited the lower floors where she had worked for 2 years. The maintenance staff greeted her with a mixture of pride and lingering disbelief at her transformation. She moved among them easily, without the artificial distance many executives maintained. Will we see you at Manuel's retirement party next week? Asked Rosa, who had taken over Tasha's former cleaning route. Wouldn't miss it, Tasha promised. As she waited for the elevator to return to her office, Tasha caught sight of her reflection in the polished doors, no longer in a maintenance uniform, but the same person who had pushed a cleaning cart through these halls, watching, learning, preparing for an opportunity. The elevator arrived with a soft chime. As the doors opened, a young woman in a custodial uniform stepped out, ducking her head in the habitual gesture of someone accustomed to being invisible. Tasha reached out gently, stopping her. What's your name? She asked. The woman looked up, surprised at being addressed by an executive. Gabriella, ma'am. I'm Tasha Williams. She extended her hand. Remember, Gabriella in this building, everyone is seen now. Don't miss our next tale of hidden talent and deserved recognition. Subscribe to Beat Stories for weekly doses of underestimated heroes who flip the script through pure skill and determination. Hit like if you cheered when Tasha finally got her moment of vindication. Share your own overlooked talent stories in the comments below. Beat Stories, where talent breaks through, one voice at a time.